Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have a special guest with me, Jerry Schill from Schill Grounds Management in Ohio. Welcome, Jerry. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you? And thank you for having me.
Oh, sure. Well, looking forward to hearing about your journey in the industry and how you've built up the company over the years. Yeah, just excited to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Like I tell my kids, we're a 32-year overnight success.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right. Nothing happens overnight, and what we like to do is have our audience hear about, how you've overcome. Our industry is a challenging industry. It's not a quick, fix, a quick win. We're always fighting against Mother Nature, and we have, a lot of complicated issues in our industry. So maybe you could start with giving us a little bit of a glimpse of those 32 years and how you've learned to have success in our industry.
Yeah, before I jump into the timeline, so to speak, I figured out how to cram 32 years into a single page. You made an interesting comment, like it's a difficult industry, but I think all businesses are challenging and they all have their own little nuances and things that make them a little more complicated than others in certain areas. But I think it's about resiliency and being persistent that entrepreneurs are just wired differently. I'm not really too concerned about what the service or the widget they're providing is, but it comes with its own set of challenges. And I think that's in the true spirit of being an entrepreneur. I mean, being able to figure that out and kind of build a better mousetrap is what makes it a lot of fun.
And well, I guess when I started
more importantly, as I get older, what I'm finding out is it's not always just about rethinking and rejiggering the business. It's also about self-awareness and figuring out things that you need to do to change who you are and your behaviors, because your behaviors drive the business.
This is so true. Well, I think we'll get dug into that through the conversation. So yeah, I mean, self-awareness is something that, it takes a while, for all of us. So no, I love those comments. And I think you're right. Entrepreneurship is a different beast, and learning yourself. And, some people get into this accidentally, as I'm going to mow grass for a while and pay the bills or go to university or be in high school or any of those things. And then it turns into a career. But I think what's so nice about our industry is that there's a lot of passion for our industry, and keeps you motivated to figure out those issues.
I can honestly say that despite some of the day-to-day challenges that we experience, which I think are pretty typical in life, I have had an amazing journey and couldn't be more excited and more proud of what we built too, and the team that we've been able to build and the culture we've created. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a very rewarding, very humbling journey. So you mentioned it a couple seconds ago where, there's really never a plan for some of these things. But in 1993, shortly after graduating from college, my brother and I started the business. And like a lot of companies, our first 15 years, we were your traditional local landscape contractor. We continued to evolve over the years and really earned a great reputation for being a really good provider of high-end residential design, build, and maintenance services. And we were really proud of what we had built. But in 2008, like a lot of folks, we realized with the financial crisis that we needed to begin to reduce our dependency on construction. So over the next couple of years, we began thinking of ways to diversify. And in 2010, I launched Schill Grounds Management, which is really the first time that we ordered a comprehensive suite of landscape maintenance services to our customers. So we were really excited because for the next 2 years, we experienced really significant growth. So from 2010 to 2012, it was kind of a rocket ship. We were doing $393,000 in maintenance when we started. And in 2 years, we were doing north of $3 million. So in 2012, I decided to pivot and offer maintenance services exclusively to commercial customers. And we knew we needed to reshape and reshape our focus and our strategy. And the strategy was to build a really highly reoccurring, scalable business that,
Mm-hmm.
we can pick up and duplicate and move from market to market and continue to expand, because that's just kind of the way I'm wired. I've never been content. So we're always looking for ways to do that.
And so, sorry, just a question. In 2010, make sure I have that right. Before you said you had 393,000 of maintenance,
Just maintenance, yeah.
just maintenance.
We were doing about just north of $10 million in total revenue.
Okay, well, that was my question. So you were, really heavily design build, and
Yeah, we
just a
were.
little
And
bit of
snow,
maintenance.
because we're up in the
Oh,
Midwest,
snow, yeah.
Great Lakes region. So, and we were doing north of $10 million at the time, and so we blew it up. And when I say we blew it up, my brother and I made the conscious decision we were going to kind of uncouple. He was going to focus on the high-end residential side of the business, and I was going to keep Schill Grounds Management and continue to focus on the commercial side of the business. And both businesses have done really, really well since we've done that, because we were passionate about those things. And I lost my passion for the DB side. He hated maintenance at the time, so it worked out really, really well. But at the time, and it sounds funny, because in 2012, when we decided to kind of pivot and change our strategy a little bit, there was three main areas. It was people, like we knew we were going to need to add, and maybe even subtract in some cases, talent, right? Getting the right people on the right seats, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that as we continued to grow, that we were providing ourselves with the bench that we needed to take the vision and turn it into a reality. And the second piece was technology. And although it sounds actually kind of funny today when you think about saying, oh, we need to embrace technology, in 2012, technology was like, you think about operating systems for your business. You think about today, you got Element and Aspire and all these other businesses today that have some sort of technology platform out there. Those things just weren't very common and didn't exist really until the institutional capital really came into the business. So we knew we needed to embrace technology, and we wanted and committed to leading from the tip of the spear on that, because it was kind of weird back then. And then the last piece was just creating a culture of excellence. So, we knew if we did those things that we would really create an extraordinary experience for our customers, and we'd be able to hopefully continue to expand through referrals and just organically across the regions. Well, the business did really well. We continued to standardize and systematize pretty much every process in the business. We really
So
kind of
important.
dumbed it down to its basic principles, and we're really successful. So once we had kind of tested our proof of concept, so to speak, by opening 2 additional locations in Cleveland in 2020, we completed our first acquisition in Columbus, Ohio. And since then, we've done
Fantastic.
16 additional acquisitions and
Wow.
stood up 8 new regions and 6 new states in Ontario, Canada, and built an amazing
That's
team and
fantastic.
a really cool culture. So it's been a lot of fun.
So technology wise, did you create your own solution to manage the business, or, talking about the, project management? Or,
We did not. Well, I guess at
okay.
some point we did. We went from pen and paper or carbon copies back in the day. Most people, these kids today don't even know what carbon copies were, but we went from, basically carbon copy, handwritten, documents to Excel to Access.
Okay.
I think we went to Boss, and then for a couple of years, and then switched to Aspire. We were one of the first users of Aspire software.
Oh,
I was really good
fantastic.
friends with Kevin Kehoe, one of the
Okay.
founders, and
Yeah.
became really close friends with Mark Tipton. So, and we haven't looked back since then. And we've also then began thinking about, it worked really, really well. We needed to have real-time transparency and data to continue to drive and manage the business, especially when you start opening multiple locations. And so we have applied that same concept to other areas of the business where we've embraced technology as well.
Fantastic. When I think of technology, I think of more than just computers, though. Are there other areas that technology is helping from a business point of view? Equipment, products, things like that?
All
Or
the above. When you think
all?
about,
Okay.
we went from a snow plow to, kind of a straight line box plow to an articulated box plow. And now we've got these box plows that are hydraulic and fold up and have created so many efficiencies. Stand on snow plows that go out and continue to improve timeliness and safety on sidewalks, right down to the type of fleet maintenance systems we're using to, optimize routes, reduce fuel, extend asset life, ensure that you're utilizing your assets properly, to products that have reduced, chemicals and all this. So there's opportunities everywhere in our industry. At every turn, there's something you can be embracing or looking at ways to improve the business.
You're so right. Yeah. Yeah. Never stop, because it's evolving around us all the time. And so you have to always be looking for those opportunities. How do you stay on top of that as such a large company spread across, did you say 8 states?
6 states in
6
Canada,
states.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, practically. Yeah. In Canada, a country and 6 states. So how do you
Well, I
do
think
that?
we have always been serial entrepreneurs. I've always been a serial entrepreneur, and we've partnered with other serial entrepreneurs, which
Mm.
makes it fun. And that culture kind of permeates its way down through the organization. So we are constantly encouraging our people to get involved, whether it's at the state, local, or even the federal level, in terms of associations like NALP or the Ohio Landscape Association or the Ontario Landscape Association. There's all these opportunities out there to learn and grow, and just, reading and just being involved, being engaged, volunteering for committees, being
Yep.
on boards. And then really, when you think about it, it's really all about leveling up. So it's the people that you reach out to, the people that you ask questions, and that really kind of learn from their mistakes or their journey, so you can speed up the learning curve, so to speak. And we've done a really good job of that, and have always not only embraced that type of mindset, but also encouraged our team to go out and do the same thing. I'm at the phase in my life, I'm in my mid-50s. There's a horizon for me in the organization. Really, a lot of what we're doing, and the people that we've partnered with along the way over the last 4 or 5 years, is really about building this sustainable business model that's, going to be in existence and operate very efficiently and very profitably long after we're gone. So it's all about propping up the next level of leadership in the organization. And that's really been our mission.
And it sounds like when you split the company, and am I right in that 2012, was that the, do you find that you had such a clear vision at that time that you were hiring the right people to make the company sustainable then? Or
We did.
is it evolving? Okay.
We did. And, we have been, my brother and I have both been consultant junkies our entire life. We learned early on, we were both college educated, and got involved in some of these associations, and seen the growth and the trajectory some of these other firms were on, not just locally, but even nationally. And so we embraced the learnings of those folks. And, Jim
Yeah.
Paluch was really instrumental, alongside Aaron's Gravely, back in the day, to putting the Working Smarter training challenge in place. And, we got in there and learned all about lean and eliminating waste and
Awesome.
standardization and all of those things, Kaizen and Gemba and all that cool stuff. And it was literally probably a transformative moment for us in our journey, where we just really started thinking about, like, hey, look, we've done a really good job and worked really, really hard at complicating the hell out of our business. We need to get back to simplifying it. Like, how
Yeah.
do you take the guesswork out of everything? And, like, it's one truck, it's one trailer, it's one set of equipment, and it's, you're training a foreman in one particular way, and account managers and OMs, and it's really about creating a model, like a scalable, replicatable,
Mm-hmm.
portable model that, as you continue to grow the business. It was important for me in particular to not just say we were creating opportunities or creating jobs, but to actually do it. You hear it a
Yeah.
lot, right? We want to create opportunities for our people. That's hard. It takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline, a lot of cash, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
failures to kind of continue to grow and evolve the business. And that's really what we were passionate about, was creating the opportunity. So, I've got a great example, even just here in Cleveland. Gentleman, I'm super proud of him. His name's Jake. Started out as a technician and is today running one of our largest opcos at the age of 34 years old.
Oh, fantastic.
Those things are intentional. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes energy, and a lot of grit to do that. But we're really super stoked about continuing to do that, because, again, myself and several of the other owners who we partnered with, our days are numbered, so to speak, on this journey.
Well, continuity is so important. everything that you worked for could easily fizzle out when you take a step back. So, yeah, it's about building something that lives on and continues to excel. So that is hard work.
It is the single biggest responsibility, I think, of a business owner is to think about that succession plan, that continuity, not just for work, but for their family. God forbid something happens. You've got this enterprise where, in most cases, people probably have the vast majority of their net worth tied up into their business.
Yeah.
And, something unfortunate happens, like there's all these complicated processes and people and decisions that have to be made. And not being prepared for an event like that, I think, is reckless and arguably irresponsible, because you're going to put your family through a lot of grief and your employees through a lot of grief. And in some cases, it could be enough to cause the business to shut down. And I don't think any owner really wants that to happen. So it's never too soon to start thinking about it, talking about it, and planning for it. So I think it's important to have those conversations and that type of dialogue, especially as you start getting later in life. ESOPs
Well,
seem to be a viable option in our space, so to speak. So, or from what I've seen, so making sure that you've got a strategy there for a succession plan is super important.
And that was one of my questions, what your advice is for other companies. And you've jumped to it already. So thank you. You're giving us nuggets of advice already. So thank you for that. What do you find is the largest challenge today in the business other than succession planning?
That's a great question. For me, it would be the culture, because we operate out of 31 different locations. And although we have different brands within our platform and our portfolio, we really focus on honoring the history and the traditions of the brands and all that, but we operate on a consistent set of core values, which is super important. And for me, and it's probably maybe even more of a personal thing because the business is doing really, really well, it's making sure that there's consistency in the culture, the vision, the direction, the things that are important, the things that matter to the organization. And being able to apply those principles consistently is really tricky. It's really tricky.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. 31 locations.
One day at a time, one conversation at a time. And we're fortunate that, 8.5 out of 10 times things are going really, really well, but we're not immune to any of the other challenges that businesses have, right? We have good days and bad days. We've got great customers and, customers that are a challenge. And, some years sales are better than others. And, the sum of all the parts is really, really good. We're proud of it. But we're not immune to any of those challenges that happen. And when those challenges happen, we operate in a very metrics driven organization. We're really big on accountability, not for the sake of accountability, but because we, again, are trying to create opportunities. And people, in order for people to level up, you need to be able to have honest, candid conversations and provide a continuous feedback loop so they can get better. And, some people welcome it. Some people shy away from it, but just learning how to have all those conversations with 1,600 different people can get tricky. And this is not just me. We've got an awesome team, and we're a very corporate light business model. All of our resources are in the region, so we can have real-time feedback loops. But I would say the culture, maintaining a consistent culture is probably the biggest challenge that I see for me and within our organization.
That is a good one, especially as the bigger you get, the harder maybe it is to be consistent, and no matter what. And people are, sometimes the most complicated tool in your toolbox is.
They are our greatest and most important asset. There's no doubt about it. And we invest the vast majority of our time and treasure into folks, because when you do a nice job, taking care of your team, right, there invariably you hope are going to go take care of your customers, which leads to positive outcomes. And it's easy to say, not easy to do, but it's paramount
worth it
to being successful on any level. And look, we're hard on ourselves. We are very hard on ourselves. And, we've never been content. We've never been complacent, and it's never good enough. So we're always, trying to pressurize things a little bit more, that pursuit of constant improvement, so to speak. And, we've built a great organization, but it is a living, breathing organism that requires a lot of tender love and care and nurturing on a daily basis. And it never lets us forget that.
And when you were saying that, one thing that I saw when I was looking at your company was the sundown rule. And I love the name, the sundown rule. But again, that's kind of a reminder of how you want your team to operate. And I really like that you're going to, if you have a problem as a client, you're going to hear from somebody in your company before sundown how the issue is going to be resolved, or you're going to see somebody on site. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came up?
Yeah, so being just kind of a serial entrepreneur and a learner, if you will, that was Sam Walton's principle, right? You had to fix what was broken that day, or at least have a solution or a plan on how you were going to fix it or move forward. So we operated that like that for years. So if somebody called before noon, they were guaranteed a call back before the end of the day. Business day, if it was afternoon, they were guaranteed a call back before noon the prior day.
Okay.
And it didn't always mean that we would fix issues or could satisfy a request immediately. But what it did do is it gave everybody, a line of sight into when it was going to get done and how it was going to get done and who was going to complete it. So you break a window, right? You have to, there's a series of things that have to happen to make that get completed. It's not going to happen in 24 hours, but we use that as kind of the guiding principle for the way we wanted to operate. And when I mentioned those three things earlier, it was talent, it was technology, and it was that culture, right? Delivering that extraordinary experience or enhancing that customer journey was just about taking the basic things and removing the friction from the customer's journey, so to speak. And in our space, you got a bunch of great owner operators, right? These run great lifestyle businesses, and they're wearing 10 different hats and things slip through the cracks. So we just said, look,
all the time.
One of the big frustrations or friction points was people not calling people back.
Yeah.
So it was a simple little twist or tweak to the operating system that drove some of the outcomes that, we've been experiencing for years. Now, full circle in terms of culture, that was what I did with Schill originally in Cleveland. It worked very, very well. It was easy when you started with 30 people and, grew it to 200 people in the Cleveland market. Now you got 1,600 plus people in 30 different locations. The consistency in which I would love to see that happen, although it is pretty good, it's not where I would love it to be ultimately. So,
never satisfied with I think that.
Well,
there's a drive. Yeah.
The culture, right, is really important. Like, and if we want people to understand that, like, when we ask people to do things, it's not for the sake of asking them to do it or to create a punitive environment, right, or to have negative conversations with you. It's really, again, to create opportunities and elevate your game, help you level up so you can actually become more valuable to the organization and take on more, and which in turn is going to lead to more responsibility and hopefully more money.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think you did mention that you feel like you're a group of entrepreneurs, do you find that the people that run with the culture more have maybe had their own business in the past, or, do you think that helps create that right culture? Or I guess maybe the question is more, how do you find the right people to enforce your culture?
Yeah, so our core values are simple. We're employee-centered, customer-focused, and champions in the communities. So when you think about it, we've got 8 different brands that we operate under. Although during our conversations, we may say things differently. At the end of the day, when we boiled all these things down and diluted them into their kind of raw elements, if you will, we were all saying the same thing in many cases, if not the exact same thing. So look, again, when you think about culture in our organization, to me, the single most important thing is our people. So that's why every decision we make, every conversation we have, I don't care if it's employee benefits or it's embracing a new piece of technology or shifting equipment or uniforms, right? All of those decisions are made for the sole purpose of improving the life of our employees. That's ultimately what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we may have some employees that may listen to this at some point and go, "Oh, like I'm not so sure about that." But ultimately, that's what we're trying to accomplish. That's really what we want to do. And it's
Mm-hmm.
no different. If we take care of our team, they're going to take care of our customers. And happy customers, better retention, higher attachment rates in terms of enhancements, more referrals. We've got customers referring us into different states now and adding on the portfolios, which is really what's important. So I think allowing people or meeting people where they are, right? At the end of the day, if we take care of our people and take care of our customers, everything will work out. You may
Yes.
say it a little bit differently, look a little bit differently than it used to look, but we're okay with that. We're going to embrace, where we can meet in the middle. And that's what we want to do is we want to leverage the best of what we have, right?
Yeah.
And just stop doing the things that don't make sense. And that requires a little bit of freedom and vulnerability to just say everything doesn't have to look exactly the same as long as we're all, basically singing from the same sheet of music. Because there is
Yeah.
regional differences and cultural differences in every one of these buildings that we have.
Yep. Yeah. And what do you have going on from there's a lot of talk about labor issues in the industry, not enough people coming in. What are you finding at Schill?
Yeah. So I just had this conversation Friday with somebody. I said, like, labor has been a challenge for 32 years. Like,
Yeah, I know.
this isn't a new phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
This is the trades, and trades, it's gratifying but difficult work, right? It's tough, it's hot, it's cold, it's backbreaking, et cetera, et cetera. So I think finding good talent has always been a challenge. But,
Hmm.
in our world, for lack of a better term, and my mindset always is instead of sitting around bitching about it, right, we're going to do something about it. So we spend way too much time spending money on trucks and loaders and just snub our nose at spending money on infrastructure. And we did it for years. We
Hmm.
no problem spending, $200,000 on trucks, but God forbid you spend $60,000 or $70,000 to hire a recruiter. So our mindset has
Ah,
been, we have been very intentional about it. We built, I would argue that our largest department in our organization is HR related. So we think about human capital, and that is all of our HR functions. That's HR compliance, that's payroll, that's employee benefits, it's our talent acquisition teams. We've got multiple talent acquisition people. So we've got a cadence where we have a staffing matrix. So we know and evaluate people, like who's doing well, who's not, who's probably promotable, like the red, yellow, green concept. And then where do we have gaps? And then talent helps us kind of go out and do that. Our employees are still our biggest referral source, but talent is constantly combing the environments that we're in to find quality, talented people that align with our values, right? And that we think would be a good fit in the organization. And we're doing different things now. We're testing different assessments and our interview process, our onboarding systems. It's all of those things. And, we've built out a good H2B team over the years. It's only about 13% of our business. So it's a very low concentration of H2B. But these folks have been with us for 20 years and we will never stop trying to bring them back. But we have not built a business around it. We've done quite the opposite. We've reduced our dependency on some of these outside agencies because we don't have control. So anywhere we could gain greater controls, we spent the money to go do that. And again, one of the biggest things we've done in the last 6 years is be intentional about going out and actively trying to recruit talented people, not waiting until we have a need.
yeah, that's a great point. And being proactive. And I think the other thing that you spent some time talking about is creating the right culture. And once you do have that, it does. You're looking for somebody that it matches with, the culture matches with, and bringing them on, and then it is more of a permanent hire. And That's an important part of it. But you're right. We don't maybe always spend as much on recruiting and the whole system around it, the onboarding and all that is a big cost. And I've often said that, hiring the wrong person is a huge cost. It's just not on paper as clear as buying the wrong piece of equipment.
Well, you made an interesting point, and I would say that one of the things we've learned over the last 32 years is, and I've been a Vistage guy for 12 years, and it's a CEO group, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of the businesses that we partnered with, whether they were, getting to a point where they needed to retire, needed to do something with the business, or they had kind of hit a ceiling and didn't know how to bust through the ceiling at a certain size. The difference between our organization and some other organizations were what they viewed as an expense in the P&L, right? Like, oh boy, if I go hire this person, it's going to lead to more work, which means I got to go buy more equipment, which means I got to go hire more people, et cetera, right? So it creates this snowball effect. And part of it has to do with your goals. Like, what are your personal goals, the goals of the business? Those are all viewed as expenses. We look at them as an investment, especially an investment in people, because we know that if we have a talent acquisition manager in place, we're still trying to sift through the metrics on how many people they can effectively onboard or hire, attract, hire, and onboard, right? And get them to stick. Like, we're starting to measure what is our retention rate with people all the way down through the technician level. So we don't have all the metrics. We don't have it all figured out. We just know that we need to do it. But it's the same thing with business developers. You hire a new business developer and they're going to sell $750,000 year one. By year three, they could be selling $2 million. It's a really small investment to make in somebody for the long-term ROI that it's going to produce.
Yeah. Great input. And thank you so much. Well, our time is coming to a close. Is there any advice that you would give to those, younger owner operator companies looking at the path forward? And maybe they're only a few years in the industry. What advice would you give them?
Don't try to figure it out on your own. Network, utilize all the associations, the industries, the peer groups, the relationships that are available out there to help grow your business. Like, learn from people. That one of my favorite parts about this industry is everybody is so willing to share and help other people. I mean, genuinely help. Like, open the door, show you anything and everything you want. Just ask. You'd be surprised at how willing people are to do it. And then the other thing is, and I've been thought it this way for about 10 or 15 years now, is you need to build your business to sell it. And I don't mean literally sell it. It could be giving it to your children. It could be transitioning it to your employees. It could be selling it out in the market. And when I say build it to sell it, I don't mean literally just do that. If you're building a business to sell, you're going to build it. You're going to do things differently.
Yeah.
You are going to do things a lot different than you would if you just think you're going to build a business so you can get some of the perks that go along with it. Now, if that's what you want, that's great. But you're going to build a highly profitable, business that people are going to be attracted to when you build the business the right way. And that's not a shameless plug. It's a mindset. It's a mindset on the way you do things.
Well, fantastic advice, and I appreciate you coming online with us and look forward to many conversations in the future.
Happy to help.
Thanks, Jerry. Great to have you on. Okay, have a great day.